Hello everybody, welcome back. Welcome to all of my previous subscribers and welcome to all of the new subscribers as well. All those people who have been drawn in by the recent developments and the recent submissions for the Chronicles of Enoch. I appreciate that. All my new Twitter followers, thank you, welcome. Instagram, Facebook, everybody, I'm glad to see you. All the new subscribers to the website as well. Always happy to see you along. Be you great or small, be you at the beginning of our path to becoming great within the art, or those of you who are well along it and in that position we all wish to reach. Now, obviously, I can't begin without mentioning, of course, the Chronicles of Enoch Collected Preludes that are available on Amazon as in paperback and ebook format, and they can also be found everywhere else you can buy an ebook from. In fact, the ebook version is available worldwide on all the major outlets: Google Books, iBooks, Smashwords, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, all those sort of things. You can find it there. You can have a look. And recent efforts over the past few weeks have pushed the SEO of the Chronicles of Enoch up to the point where they're a lot easier to find through Google searches if you choose to go that way. In fact, if you do a Google image search, I'm pleased to announce that the Chronicles of Enoch come up as #1 on the list for the time being. Whether it will stay that way, I don't know. But if you have any confusion, if you have any problems, you know where I am. You know I'm very approachable and I'll always talk to you guys. And that's what I wanted to address this week. I do get asked a lot of questions. I do see a lot of questions. And I always feel the need to address them. I just haven't really got into a structured way of doing that. As you know, sometimes this art of the storyteller, as we like to call it, can be quite an unstructured and sporadic thing. I intend to do something about that. And this week I'm going to mainly be addressing popular questions that I see and hear and am asked, and hopefully come up with some answers, or at least my opinions on the matter. So to begin with, one that I see regularly is the most simple to answer. How does one become a writer? I want to be a writer. How do I do it? Now, this is a twofold answer I'll give it. First of all, if you're asking how does one become a writer, it's kind of like asking how does one become a cat, in my opinion, to some degree. One is always going to be a writer. One is going to have that vagary of personality that obligates one to observe what is going on around yourself, to see things that are happening, and to want to explain and write about them. I think, at least as a writer of fiction, you're someone who is born that way. You have this thing within you, this thing within your heart or within your mind or wherever, which gives you that uncontrollable urge to write things down and to make stories out of the most basic of things. As an example, I tend to be asked, how do I get the names of my characters? How do I get the personality of my characters, their manners of speech, their behavior, I suppose, for completely fictional constructs? Contrary to popular belief, I do not have a variety of people living in my head constantly fighting for control. That is one way of explaining it. How can I imagine distinct personalities to my own without actually intimately knowing them on a personal basis? I'm a very observant person. I see everything that's going on around me. I see people, how they interact and how they behave, and part of it stays in my head. And all of my characters, I can tell you, are in some way, some of them are based on aspects of me. There's no question about that. It's perfectly normal. That's what we do. And some of them are based on aspects of people that I've seen and observed. I've observed how people behave. I've observed different things that people do. And I have paid attention and studied them. And sorry, I do have a bit of a dry throat today. I'm not sure what it is. Hopefully I'm not coming down with a cold. It could happen. In fact, I'm hoping it doesn't happen because I am, as I mentioned, traveling next week to begin the next stage of my search for a job and a place for me and my family to live, to bring my little girls over. And thank you, everybody, for your comments on that. They're doing great, actually. They shall not be starring in my videos again for a little while, but hopefully it'll be soon. But to carry on, as I've said, I have this vagary of personality where I observe, I see, and I pay attention to everything, even when I'm not conscious of it. I've been told off for observing adverts and picking adverts apart, commercials, and studying the language and the symbolism in them. It's just something I do. I even struggle these days to read fiction without actually reading it as a writer, which is a bit of a challenge, but it's that vagary of personality that we have that makes us take something mundane and make it something fantastic. So I think one cannot learn to be a writer, but one has the urge to write within oneself. One can obviously, as a discussion goes, and this is a very large and common discussion that people tend to be involved in online, in Facebook groups, on Twitter predominantly, and some other places as well, such as Goodreads and everything. One does go through this discussion that anyone can be a writer. And to a degree, that is true. Anyone can be a writer. Anyone can put one word in front of the other, put other words after it, form sentences, and express something they have within their mind. But there is a caveat. Anyone can be a writer, but not everyone can be a good writer, and very few can be a great writer. Now, I'm not saying I'm a great writer. People who've read my work have said I am a good writer, to say the least. Some of those people are experts in that field, I would imagine. Others, perhaps, are learning. But one thing we have to do as a writing community, I feel, is support one another better. It's not a contest. It is not a battle to see who is the best or the greatest writer, or to determine whose opinion on what constitutes good writing is correct. It's not all about that, is it? Us conflicting and fighting and arguing over what constitutes good writing is not something that is going to improve any of our careers in the long run. Yes, constructive criticism, yes, discussion of what constitutes good writing can potentially lead to good things for everyone involved. As many have commented, feedback is good. If one cannot accept either constructive or unconstructive feedback on one's writing, one is not going to improve that. If one insists that the way one does it is the best and only way, one cannot learn, one cannot develop, one cannot grow. So, of course, it is one of these things where 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. These new writers who are coming, excuse me, need some light. These new writers who are coming aboard. Oh, that's terrible. These new writers who are coming aboard. And just give me 2 seconds. Let me pause here because that lighting change is awful. Thank you. That's better, isn't it? All right. So these new writers who are coming aboard, who are coming into the world of writing. Now, I don't say new writers because we're all new writers effectively up until the day we become rich, famous, and get published. I would not imagine any of the veteran writers will actually be watching this, but you never know. If you are, please tell me and do my ego the word of good. I will love you forever and buy all of your books. But if you, Neil Gaiman, if you, Anne Rice, if you, Stephen King, or any of you great writers out there, even Owen Kofa, if you're out there, what you did to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy may be something we can discuss. But I think you did all right. If you are those famous movie stars or anyone, if you're more famous than me, I don't care. Tell me you like watching these videos, and I will love you forever. I will purchase any of your art that you wish me to purchase. And I will tell everyone how wonderful it is out of the deep depths of my heart. Though, of course, it's not going to happen. I have corresponded and spoken to several people who are famous in their field, and I wish I could be on their level some point, but obviously it's not going to happen. Not yet, anyway. And that's the other thing we have to look at is positivity. If you ask that question, how do you become a writer? Quite simple, you've got it in here already. What you're asking is the wrong question. And there's no such thing as a wrong question, but there's such a thing as a specific question. Let me explain. So, you're really asking, how do you become a successful and published author or writer. There's a main difference. Everyone can write, but not everyone can produce work that will, as we all wish to do, change the world, change the perceptions of some people in some way. That's the important thing. Is, from my point of view, I would like the Chronicles of Enoch to be one of those books or series of books which changes the perspective of people in such a way that they will question everything. That's the whole point of it. It is meant to show the events from the beginning of time until what was supposed to be the end of time and everything in between, and make people question what they're seeing and what they're accepting, and also what they themselves think, to, as one of my friends liked to talk about, a perspective shift inside of our own minds or inside of our own souls, whichever you prefer to call it. And to some degree, that's what we all want to do, isn't it? And while people are impatient with those people on the online forums, in the Facebook groups, on Twitter, on many occasions, and may express this impatience in a rather negative fashion, we're all in the same place here until any of us are fully published, well read, stocked in all the libraries and bookstores around the world. We're in the same place they are. We're just a different way along a different point along the path. Now, I was having a discussion with someone who is at the end of the path where I would like to be a couple of days back. Now, I won't mention their name, but they are doing rather well, and you can find their TV series, not movies, DVDs, audiobooks, and everything wherever you like. You may even find some of them stealth signed somewhere in an airport near you. But the discussion we had is that, why do we see these people who are at the spot we would like to be as some kind of infallible gods, as it were, some great deities or demigods who are separate to the rest of us? They are simply at a different point in the path than we are. We're at the very beginning. They are somewhere in between. If they're at the end, that's not good, because that means their career is done. We want to get sort of here. We've still got plenty of room to go. And that's the discussion we're having, that they're a normal person with normal concerns, normal decisions to make in their lives, normal things to do. They just happen to have made a career out of their art in a way that we all want to do. And what's the secret in doing it? Hard work is definitely part of it. Inbuilt natural talent is another. And sheer good luck is often something that we overlook. Being in the right place at the right time, having the right conversation with the right person, having the person who needs to be receptive to the potential of your work being so. And let me break that down for you. So, as I said, we've got hard work, we've got talent, and we've got luck. So, hard work. And it connects all together. Now, this is a discussion we've had, and I've had a discussion with many people. Regardless of the ongoing trend in everyone being born the same way and without any discernible talent at all, some of us are born with a little bit more talent than others. One example I always use for myself and some other people I know is that observational ability and that observational obsession. I observe everything. I analyze everything. I can be holding a conversation with one person and fully engaged in that conversation, but also observing everything that's going on around me. So I can literally be talking about something to somebody and observing what's on the television and analyzing that with a redundant part of my brain. And this talent that I have and the love of words I was born with have helped me, according to some, put a degree of realism into my work that is not possible to teach to some degree. Now, let's stop here, shall we? Because I've crossed over into talent instead of hard work, but they are linked. Because no matter how much talent you have, if you don't know the basics of writing, if you don't know the basics of grammar and language and how to use and manipulate it, you have to learn it. If you don't know the skill in narrating, in making a story compelling, in manipulating our readers, and I'll get back to that later, manipulating their emotions, manipulating their sadness, their joy, in stringing them along a certain path, only for that path to actually be a false one, or hiding little nuggets of information, little barbs, as people like me using the term, to draw them along a certain way, then all that talent, all the talent in the world is not going to help you there. If you cannot know how to craft and perfect what you begin out of your talent into something better, because let's be honest, anyone with a decent imagination can come up with a great story, but not everybody can craft and hone and meld that story into something other people want to read. Now, an example I've used in some of my articles is metalworking. I do have a love of forging and metalworking. I don't do it, but I like the concept of it. Anyone can get a piece of good steel. They can have the imagination, the ability to pick that piece of good metal out of a pile and have the potential to make something out of it. But not everyone. Let's just say, I'll use an example. This is an example I've had with somebody else who's quite predominant in that field, and that's why I use these metaphors, because they got me thinking. A true, let's say, blacksmith or weapon maker or something like that can see a piece of steel and look at that piece of steel and see the end result in it, be it a knife, be it a sword, be it a piece of armor, be it a work of art. But it takes hard work and practice to learn how to form that piece of metal into the vision they saw within it. I could envisage a great sword. I could see a piece of metal, I could make it, but could I turn my vision into something concrete? Could I shape that metal, know how to heat it, know how to manipulate it, know how to turn it and make a sword out? No, I couldn't even begin to try. I would have a great idea and I would produce something that looked like a malformed metal banana. That's what's going to happen. It's quite easy. But if I were, for example, to apprentice with an experienced and qualified metal worker to learn and to take the time and the hard work and fail considerably often, it is perhaps possible that I could reach the point where my imagination could equal my ability. Now, another example I'll use to go into as well. I have an odd ability, which I have transferred over to Asmodeus. If you've read the book, if you have read The Predators of Enoch, you'll know what I'm talking about. That ability to have a perfectly eidetic memory for music. I can recall every piece of music I've ever heard. I can recall every song I've heard. I can replay it in my head as if I'm listening to it on headphones. I can also adapt and change that music. I can change the vocalist. I can change the instruments. I can even compose music in my head. But I have absolutely no ability to take it out of my head and into the oral landscape that other people can hear. I have no ability to produce music on instruments. Well, I do, but it's not music everyone else wants to hear. And it doesn't equal my talent. I can sing, but people would probably pay me to stop singing rather than to continue. Now, it is possible with enough application, hard work, and effort that I could learn that and produce that into a form that other people could share and enjoy. So that talent I have would be useless without training, and it is useless without training. It's good for my entertainment, but not for the entertainment of others. And several who've looked may see another parallel. In the artworks I produced for the Chronicles of Enoch and others, when I began producing those artworks, they were basic. They were full of faults and difficulties and not altogether good. And then you look at my more recent ones, and through practice, I've found ways to make them even better. You know, my most recent Three Horsemen series for famine, for corruption, and for war. When you look at the original artworks I produced for them, what you are seeing now on the screen is another level, a quantum shift, to use the scientific and sci-fi term, of difference. So you look at that, and you've also got looking at the hard work. The first writing that I have done in recent years, in the past 3 years, is significantly different to the writing I did and doing now. I'm looking at some of my old writing and I immediately see what needs to be changed, how it needs to be honed, how it needs to be tempered, how it needs to be quenched and hardened into something better. And that's only from 2 or 3 years ago when I started this journey seriously. So you have to look at that. You may have a talent, you may have a skill, but you need hard work and effort to make it into something other people will appreciate and enjoy. Because that's one thing to not forget. In your head, you can see your vision as the greatest thing that has ever graced a bookshelf. But you have to make it into something where other people will agree with you. And how you do that is through your skill and your application of writing. And that, my friends, does take a lot of hard work. Now, there's another thing to look at as before I digress too deeply, and that is the luck element. We've covered talent, we've covered hard work. Now, even though I'm simplifying it down, the hard work element never ends. But we'll get to that later. The luck thing. Many are the memes and the quotes and everything you will see on social media that talk about the amount of times X author, X writer, X creative person has received rejection before they received acceptance. You know, even for those older among us, the Beatles were rejected many times. J.K. Rowling apparently was rejected 13 times, other people many more. It is the luck element. You can produce what many may argue was the greatest piece of writing written in their generation. Many will say that the Harry Potter series is incredible. I find it passable. I enjoy it. I've read them all, so I can comment. But according to those memes and perhaps Joanne herself, many people rejected that and did not see it. But there was that one person who saw it and the luck element came in and people were able to see and enjoy that work that she created. And it's going to be the same for us. We're going to receive rejection. It is often said if you cannot accept rejection, you cannot get anywhere in our world. And it's true. I've received rejection. I've received ample negative criticism. I have received positive and constructive criticism that I've worked on. I produced something that I thought was absolutely incredibly brilliant, hilarious, deeply insightful, and all of those things. Other people have read it and gone, no, I don't get it. So that is the thing. We're going back to hard work again, and you have to realize we're never going to leave hard work. But I could meet someone who is completely on my wavelength, completely understands, reads it, gets it, but says, what I think you need to do is this. And with that person, we can work and we can form and we can mold and we can make it even better. That person is an agent who knows editors, who knows the industry, who knows readers, and knows what people like to read, then that's going to be an immense piece of good luck. Another one I'll mention, because you know I mentioned Neil Gaiman, I've met him once or twice, and I do think he's an incredible guy. Any of you who have heard of Tori Amos? Tori Amos got her big break through Neil Gaiman. Many years ago, she went to a signing of some of his comic books, the Sandman series, in which she was deeply in love and enjoyed, and handed him, and this is going really archaic and back to us older folks, you younger folks won't know what I'm talking, and handed him a cassette that she'd recorded herself of her album, and just handed it to him and asked him to do something about it and left. It turned out that Neil, by handing that to people he knew, started Tori's career, and they have remained friends ever since, and she recognized that he provided her with that lucky break. Now, that's where luck goes. I could hand a tape cassette of my great warblings to Mr. Gaiman or another, and he could put it in the trash, he could listen to it and hate it. and that lucky break wouldn't come because I should perhaps have handed it to a different person. Tori was lucky that the person she handed it to recognized her art, enjoyed what she wrote, and had connections, mainly his wife Amanda, in the music industry. And it certainly did help. That luck is a large part and element of what we do, don't you think? Because you could be querying agents and you could be querying the wrong agents, and the rejection is coming from that. You decide to do something differently, and those agents may suddenly realize what they missed, or those agents may not change, but a different agent may say, I love this, it's great. It's all in the combination between luck and judgment, because there's many who believe that luck doesn't exist, that we make our own luck. And maybe we do, but we don't always make the right judgment at the right time, do we? It's a challenging thing. Now, obviously, I realize I'm rambling a bit at the moment. I apologize. I'm tired and have many things on my mind, but I did promise you guys I was going to keep these up. So please bear with me. They'll get better. But look at it this way. Let's go back to what we were covering. So again, we have three things. We have hard work, we have talent, and we have luck. Now, as you can see from my ramblings and my constant crossing back over, these things are not separable. They are not discrete. They are not individual things. They are actually part of a very organic and dynamically shifting process. And it's once you get to realize this that maybe things become a little easier. And let's approach what we were talking about. So, as you know, talent is the beginning, hard work is a continuation, luck is the end result. It's all a process. I could write the Chronicles of Enoch as being what many people have called a paradigm shifter, a book of a generation, a work of art beyond anything anyone has produced in a very long time, something unbelievably out of the water, exceptionally brilliant. But it could never get on the shelves because my judgment does not get it to the places it needs to be. My luck does not bring it to where it has to be. And it could be the same with you. Do not get dispirited if you're not getting where you want to get yet. Because, and here's where my belief comes in, and some of the themes I tackle quite extensively in the Chronicles of Enoch series come in, and I'm sure many of you will disagree with me on this one. Okay? Everything happens for a reason and at its right time. It's something I very definitely believe. What I would call, with the emphasis intentional, meant with a capital M. Sometimes things happen in a certain way at a certain time because that is when it was supposed to happen. And they don't happen prior to that because it wasn't the right time. Now, if you believe in that, then the rejection you're receiving at the moment is a temporary thing. If you don't believe in that, then it's going to be an uphill struggle. But you have to figure out in that case why it's not happening now and what you need to do to make it happen now. Now, me at the moment, I see people who are panicking, who are worrying. I am quite relaxed as far as my work is going at the moment. For one, I've got to do some major edits of book one, Darkness Within, of the Chronicles of Enoch. At the moment, what I'm doing is I am preparing the ground while I'm perfecting what goes in it. I am, if you want to use another metaphor, preparing the foundations for my house while I prepare to build the actual house that goes on the foundations, because without the foundations, the house isn't going to stay, or it's not going to be solid. Now, it may take me a long time to prepare these foundations, but once the foundations are ready, constructing the house will be easier. One thing I'll say is that as far as like the SEO and the awareness on the web is going, 3 or 4 weeks ago, if you searched for Chronicles of Enoch, you wouldn't find very much relating to me. You would find the great Brian Godawa's work, but you wouldn't find mine. Even though his isn't called the Chronicles of Enoch, his keywords and SEO do point in that direction. Now, if you look, you'll find it riddled with stuff that I have done, because that hard proprietary work has meant that as long as I keep it up, when the Chronicles of Enoch are ready to be released, they'll be easy to find and they will be talked about and popular. It's laying the groundwork. It is, if you would like to say, making my look, setting it up for my look to fall in the right position. So, yes, I'm doing hard work. Yes, luck may not be involved at all, or if it is involved, I have created it. It's one of those great discussions, and I'm open to discussion. I would like to hear what you guys have to say about it, by the way. And I have rambled and gone off the questions, but I think if you listen properly, you'll actually find a lot of my questions are being answered here. So, I'm going to finish up here, and how I'd like to finish up is about all of you people out there. Now, as I mentioned, those who have actually already achieved fame, those who feel they're achieving some sort of popularity and sales with their books, we are essentially in the same place, whether you like to admit it or not. If we are frequenting Facebook groups, if we are self-publishing, if we are on Twitter, sharing and talking about our experiences, gosh, even if we're on Instagram and YouTube like me, talking about our experiences, we are at the same point along the journey as those who are at the beginning, asking what we may consider to be stupid questions, or making what we consider to be incorrect judgments, or writing to a level which we think is inferior to ours. Let me just ask each and every one of you who is watching this question. Can I walk into any bookstore or library anywhere in the world and find your book on the shelf? Could I approach one of our famous brethren or sistren and ask them about your work and they will recognize and know about it? I'll give you a minute. Yes, of course the answer is no. And there is none of us out there on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube who knows secret knowledge that those poor mortals beneath them do not. If we are frequenting Facebook groups, Twitter conversations, any form of social media, we're having to advertise and self-publish, we haven't made it yet. We're not even close until an agent comes up and says, I want to sell your book for you. And millions of people buy that book and Hollywood directors swarm over us asking to make a TV series or movie of our book, then we haven't made it yet. We're no better than them. There is, and I will emphasize this quite strongly, there is no set formula, no set way, no set knowledge to produce a bestseller. If you, if you ask anyone who has, in fact, produced an actual worldwide bestseller, they'll tell you the same thing. There is no hard, cut and fast rules, no mixed metaphors for me to use and make mistakes on their execution. In fact, while we are arguing on Facebook about the rules of writing, we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing, and that is, in fact, writing. I will be the first to admit I am not perfect when it comes to writing. I make mistakes, I make errors, I misspell things, I misconstruct sentences, my clauses hang, my metaphors mix, passivity can be caused to appear, and so on and so forth. But let me just deconstruct a few things. Show, don't tell. Let's start with that. Absolute rubbish. I remember reading back when I was at school, Bleak House by Charles Dickens, and one thing I remember, and anyone who's read it will agree with me, the first 4 or 5 pages of that book could be condensed into a very simple phrase. It was raining an awful lot, a lot more than people remember it having rained before. Everything was wet and muddy. Our dear friend Charles took about 5 pages to say that. Now, the show not tell, cut in stone, never tell at all crowd won't like what I'm saying here, but it's like with everything else. I tell awfully a great deal in my books, because I'm maintaining a pace. I also show when I think it's necessary, but I don't do the whole thing of my brow was furrowed and knotted. I creased my eyebrows. I narrowed my eyes. I looked straight at the camera in such a way as I felt a thrill in my blood. I was shivering and pressed my lips together and spoke, lowering my voice in such a way as to imply the great turning of wheels within my brain. Hesitation, silence extending out and going on, whispering as if the north wind trying to get through an ill-fitted window in a house. Yeah, I could do that, and I've done it when it's necessary. But I have been known just to say he narrowed his eyes thoughtfully as the tone of his voice lowered. It's easier, quicker, it keeps the pace up, it totally depends. Like with everything, there's always a comparison I use of dieting. If one wants to lose weight, one can go to the extreme and force oneself onto a fatty diet, or one can exercise moderation. Now, I've gained a bit of weight now, not a great deal, but enough to concern me. If you look at my older videos, I was thinner in my previous videos till when I came to Spain. Good living, too much relaxation, and mother's cooking. Terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. That's all going to change soon. I bet I'll lose a bit of weight then. But as with everything, with showing and not telling, with passive tense, with adverbs, with all the various things we are told are the evils of the writer's world, all in moderation, my friends. You can tell in moderation. You can use adverbs in moderation. You can use alliteration in moderation. You can use hanging clauses. You can start sentences with but and because. Because pick up any book that you can find that has a good distribution and a popular following, and you will find it that these so-called iron hard rules of writing are broken in them. And also, let me ask you this question. Who is it you are listening to who is giving you this advice on how to be a successful writer? Yeah, it's another writer who is marginally perhaps more successful than you. And what you have to ask yourself here is, what are we here for? How my last blog post ended. What is your job? What are you here for? Are you here to be arguing on social media, to be writing articles about the so-called rules of writing, or are you here to make your art stand out and be recognized? That's what you have to ask yourself. And I'm going to finish up now because I feel it's coming to an end, and I want to leave a question hanging in the air. Tell me, what is your definition of that question you have just asked, that thought that you have just expressed inside of your head of that I write for me? Tell me what that really, really means. And tell me why that should make any difference in why you write in a certain way and a certain manner. Because in a way, maybe we do all write for ourselves, but we also write for the people who will read our work, and we perfect it so that other people can share our vision and understand it, that we can change them. Of course, that's me answering the question, so I'm going to leave it there. As I said, check out the links at the bottom for the Chronicles of Enoch, the Preludes of Enoch. Check out the website. There's lots of new artwork and excuse me, interesting things on there. And join me next week. And I would like those of you who watch to answer me that question. What does I write for me or for myself actually mean to you? Okay, so my rambling is done for this week. I will see you next week. This time I will be in Gibraltar, and I'll send you some pictures, I promise, and give you a different background from this temporary collection of stuff I have behind me right now. But thank you everyone for your support, by the way. As I said, my daughters are doing fine and I and Amber are very happy. They will hopefully soon, with a stroke of luck and hard work and application of my talents, be joining us. And once they do, I will allow them to star in the background of the video as they often have in the past. But you guys all take care. We'll be speaking soon. As I said, thank you for your interest in the videos. Please keep the questions coming, and thank you for trusting me to help you with your art as well. And also, all you famous viewers out there, thank you, and please let me know. Don't keep me in the dark. Don't keep me hanging on here, man. It's terrible. But you guys have a great week. Again, thank you for joining with the Art of the Storyteller. Have yourselves a great day. I love you all. Take care. Bye bye.